If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you are already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. Seems every week I get a few people telling me that they were unsubscribed without their permission. And while you're at it, give the video a like and share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. Now, that said, Ruth Bigot Ginsburg has kicked the bucket. This shriveled old hag of the Supreme Court is now kicking it in the lower chambers of hell with her buddy Antonin Scalia. I'm going to tell you about the Ruth Bader Ginsburg that the white media doesn't tell you about. I'm going to tell you about the one who was basically a casual racist, read white moderate her entire life. She had no real liberal positions except where it was of interest to the dominant society. If you were a white LGBT, which Ruth Bader Ginsburg was, she was a lesbian. If you happen to be a white right of center, if you were a white person in America, you probably, especially if you were left of center, or if you were a casual racist, you probably either thought highly of her, like a bunch of the young white millennials do, these brain-dead goofballs. Or at the very least, you didn't have much bad to say about her. On the other hand, if you were black, if you're intelligent, had nothing but contempt. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if you want to know just what a lowlife she was best buds with Antonin Scalia, a reprobate racist who was put on the court because you got the Federalist Society that goes ahead and vets these clowns and tells the Republicans, hey, here's the most rabid anti-black racist we could find. We've already made sure to feel him out on what he thinks about any sort of laws that punish the police, anything that could even remotely be of benefit to black people. So here you got yourself an ideologue who's going to be legislating from the bench. Laws be damned. There's an old saying in American jurisprudence that tough cases make for bad law. Well, white supremacists who are on the bench make for even worse law. It's one thing to have somebody who takes a particular case that might be too specialized or too esoteric to be a blanket case that should apply to all people in the society. It's one thing to have a case like that, but when you have somebody who's looking at the law and going, yeah, I know exactly what the law says and I don't give a damn, that's far worse. And this is who Ruth Bigot Ginsburg was best buds with. Oh, she wasn't just friends with Antonin Scalia in the latter part of his demonic satanic existence. These people, both of those two, were running around all over the world, in India, going to the opera together. I'm not going to show you all the pictures, but this is just a couple of them. This is what these two idiots were doing, by the way. I mean, for God's sake, this seems to be a little bit too chummy, don't you think? If you're going to be sitting on the bench, doesn't this constitute a conflict of interest to some degree? At the end of the day, these guys are supposed to be interpreting the law, but instead they function more like a private club. They feel like some sort of elite. And when it comes to the elite, they always make sure that they fall into lockstep for anything that might threaten their power. And the power of these white liberals is not rooted in their liberalism or rooted in whatever egalitarian fluff that they like to spout. It's rooted in white supremacy. White supremacy put Ruth Bigot Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia on the bench. Both of them got there through the exact same process, by the exact same forces for the exact same reason. Now, if you want to know what a reprobate Antonin Scalia was and how it is that there is no excuse for Ginsburg to be pretending as if there was anything all right with this bastard as he finally got closer to his grave, which nobody is sorry to see him in, I'm going to go ahead and give you just a little bit of what happened when you had Shelby County v. Holder. One of the Republicans realize that they're losing power in the country, and the judiciary is about the only place that they're able to get anything done because, well, Antonin Scalia, I think, summed it up best about how politically impotent the Republicans are and how they need the courts to be able to do things for them because the Republicans can't get anything done for themselves. Now, in his opinion, completely uninformed as it was, Antonin Scalia writing about the Voting Rights Act. This is just before he and those other thugs on the bench, they already made up their minds. They didn't give a dang what was going on during that case. They were just twiddling their thumbs going, go ahead, hurry up and make your argument so we can say that we're striking this thing down. They had already made the decision. That's part of the reason why the Federalist Society put these guys there, to have a guaranteed outcome. But what Scalia said was this last enactment, talking about the reenactment of the Voting Rights Act, not a single vote in the Senate against it, and the House is pretty much the same. He went on then to say, I think it is attributable, very likely attributable to a phenomenon that is called perpetuation of racial entitlement. That's what the bastard actually had the nerve to say, racial entitlement. Oh, you think that as a black person, you're supposed to be able to influence the political process. That's racial entitlement. Never mind the fact that the 15th Amendment is not about racial entitlement. It's simply saying that it's going to apply to everyone. It is making the law ubiquitous, not specific. It was specific before because the Constitution specifically excluded black people from being able to vote. And now the Constitution was saying it's going to be ubiquitous. But Antonin Scalia says that's racial entitlement. Now, this is not someone who's talking like a jurist. This is someone who's talking like a political pundit, which is exactly why he was there. And racial entitlement, no, the white supremacists like Antonin Scalia and the good old boys down in Alabama, they're the ones with the racial entitlement that they're trying to perpetuate. But this is what Antonin Scalia wrote, and apparently Ruth Ginsburg, she didn't have much to say about it. I mean, Sonia Sotomayor, she's about the only person who actually said anything against this, but Ginsburg, well, she didn't really have much to say. And by the way, it got even worse. Scalia went on to babble, I don't think there is anything to be gained by any senator to vote against the continuation of this act, and I am fairly confident it will be reenacted in perpetuity unless a court can say it does not comport with the Constitution. I'm going to go over that again because it bears emphasis. Antonin Scalia openly, boldly admits that he doesn't like the Voting Rights Act. And he admits this thing keeps getting reenacted and reenacted again, and it's going to be the law of the land unless a court does something about it. This bastard's saying this in open court, in open session. He's not saying this behind closed doors. He's not saying this in a back room with the rest of his racist pals. He's saying this in front of everybody. He's saying, yeah, I'm going to legislate from the bench. Yeah, I know that the legislature has already spoken, but I don't like it. And just in case you think that Antonin Scalia was simply speaking off the cuff, he goes ahead and he addresses Congress directly and shows his complete contempt for Congress. He said talking about getting rid of the Voting Rights Act, it's a concern that this is not the kind of question you can leave to Congress. Did you get that? It's a concern. Concern to who? Well, the white supremacists, the right-wing white supremacists that I happen to be speaking for. We're concerned this kind of thing, when it comes to voting, that's not the kind of question you can leave to Congress. You get that? Antonin Scalia in front of the entire world says that laws can't be left to the lawmakers. That's what he said. You got this guy sitting on the Supreme Court. What he says is the Congress has spoken. They're unanimous. And what happened here, this lawsuit was not filed at the federal level, or at least it did not come out of federal jurisdiction. It came out of a local one. Some good old boys down in Shelby, Alabama, trying to do the old jerry-rigging of the electoral lines so that they can create artificial districts where they can corral the black vote. Because this is about voter caging. We're gonna take these black areas, and what typically would give black people the ability to have 2 or 3 politicians that they're able to put in office, we're gonna redraw it so that they can only get 1, if that. Trying to break up black political amalgamation of the vote to make it where the black vote gets watered down. And Antonin Scalia is co-signing it, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, through her silence, was agreeing with it. And finally, Scalia said talking about the politicians, they are going to lose votes if they do not reenact the Voting Rights Act. Now, I left out the part where he was whining and talking about how, oh, the very name, they wouldn't even vote against it because of the name. It wasn't the name that got them, it was the concept. But he sits there and he states it in black and white that the court has to strike this down because you can't leave this up to Congress. The politicians will lose votes if they don't reenact the Voting Rights Act. Well, that's a problem for the politicians. And more importantly than that, if you got everybody in agreement on it, what that means is the legislature, which is voted on by the people selected the legislators. The people did not select Antonin Scalia or Ruth Ginsburg. This is the very judicial activism the right-wingers are always talking about, phony baloney accusations of it. This is right here. This is the very definition of a judicial activist. I see what the Congress is saying, and we can't leave this up to them. Yeah, we know what the Congress said, and I don't have a legal leg to stand on, but I don't like this law, and it's going to be reenacted in perpetuity unless I do something about it. And the politicians, well, they would like to vote against it, I'm sure, but they're scared that they'll lose votes. Well, that's not his concern. Since when does it become the concern of a Supreme Court justice to protect politicians from being voted out of office? There is a constitutional term for that kind of judicial activism. It's called political high-handedness. Whenever you have a federal judge who decides that he's going to do something that is meant to politically benefit a particular person or a particular party or group, that is political high-handedness. He's no longer acting as a jurist, he's acting as a political operative. And that's exactly what Antonin Scalia did. This is political high-handedness by a Supreme Court justice, no less. But you didn't hear anybody on the political left saying that. Nobody was saying that, but that's exactly what this is. I've got to protect these guys' political jobs. I got to protect them from being voted out of office, either by trying to push against a just law or make sure that they get protected, that they get to have their cake and eat it too. They get to say, well, I voted for the Voting Rights Act, but it was the Supreme Court that got rid of it. Ha, ha, ha. That way they can, politically speaking, they can throw a rock and hide their hands. They don't have to do the dirty work. An unelected whore with a law degree sitting on the federal bench can do it for them instead. And that way, they get to avoid what would ordinarily be the natural consequences of such an act. That's what Antonin Scalia did, and that's what Ruth Ginsburg had no problem with. She was completely silent about it because she agreed with it. Oh, this is her buddy. So when you see these two palling around, this is what the hell she's palling around with. And keep in mind, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's LGBT. And she is as racist as Milo Snuffleupagus, as racist as Ed Buck, as racist as any of these mouthpieces for the LGBT movement that you can find, or any of these white feminists, for any of the black feminates out there who are trying to think to themselves they got some sort of sisterhood, because what's really happening is you aspire to be a white woman, so you don't want to have to come out and say that exactly. So you're trying to stand as close to your idol as you can. Well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she lets you know exactly what the hell she thinks about black people, okay? This is who the world she had as her friend. Decades as her friend, and she didn't say a doggone word against it. That's because she was in agreement with it. Far as she was concerned, yeah, let the right-wingers on the court, let them go ahead and take the criticism for it, but there won't be any punishment. An unelected racist sitting on the Supreme Court who is legislating from the bench. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg ain't got a damn thing to say about it. Now, it was white millennials who, because of some asinine little statement that Ruth Ginsburg made some years back, some of these white kids who clearly are going through a rebellious stage, which I'm sure that they, as they always do, they'll pass through it very quickly as soon as they realize I'm white and I better make sure I maintain my white privilege. They thought it would be cute to nickname her Notorious RBG, a takeoff of Notorious B.I.G., of course. This racist Ginsburg, she didn't want anything to do with black people, had nothing but contempt for black people, could not stand black people, and yet you had some white millennials who thought that it would be cute to go ahead and take the name of a rap icon, the nickname for a rap icon, and go ahead and super glue it on this racist heifer. There's your racial entitlement, by the way. And while we don't exactly know if Ruth Ginsburg was aware of this cutesy little urbanized nickname that some of these white millennials decided to bestow upon her, one thing that we can safely assume, she wouldn't have approved of it. She certainly wouldn't have found it to be too flattering. And you know what? I agree. Notorious B.I.G. deserved a hell of a lot better than to ever have any appellation ascribed to him put onto some racist white supremacist piece of trash like Ginsburg. You know the brother's doing flip-flops in his grave right now. But this is who the white media puts on a pedestal. This is who the white media wants you to think that it's, oh, so tragic. Oh, well, she was just such a moral paragon. This woman was your average casual racist. And by the way, before we go any farther, I think now is a good time for us to go ahead and bring up what was happening when she was directly asked what she thought about the racial unrest of the last few years. And Colin Kaepernick in the NFL protest. Oh, she was asked about that directly. And here's what Ruth Ginsburg had to say regarding people fighting against police brutality and police racism in the streets.
Let me ask you about the racial divide in this country. It seems to be increasing every day, fueled by recent police shootings of African American men. I'm sure you have been watching this unfold. What do you think can be done, Justice Ginsburg, to address this problem?
In policing, I think there are serious efforts to educate the police and local communities to the importance of rapport. There was a time when there were very few African Americans in policing. That's no longer true. They are becoming police officers in increasing numbers. Some of them are police chiefs. So there's been definite improvement in that respect. We are dependent on police officers for our security, but they are also should be cognizant of the community that they serve. There's another area I can think of where there were effective police training courses.
But is it happening fast enough? I mean, every day it seems.
Well, we would like to have it happen overnight, but it won't. It will be slow. What's important is that we are headed in the right. We don't say, well, too bad that's the way it is, and I'm not going to change anything. We are changing things. I don't know that it's worse. It probably isn't than it was years ago. But now it's being noticed.
And being videotaped.
And that's already a promising sign. People are noticing it. They're recognizing it is a problem. And good minds are grappling with how to deal with it, both on the community side and on the police side.
Now, you hear what this old gas bag said. Oh, there's more black police officers, more black police chiefs, so there's been huge improvement when it comes to the police. This sounds like any good old boy or good old gal that you could find in the worst holler or trailer park in the South. And this is a woman who's supposed to be a Supreme Court justice, one of the brightest legal minds in the country, but she's talking like any other white supremacist on a porch in Kentucky. Oh, there's some black cops, so that means things are much better, much different now. Man, there were Negroes who were informing for the slave patrols. There were Negroes who were informing against the civil rights movement's leaders. That's how a lot of them got killed. This woman, she's making it very clear. She has the standpoint, the mentality, and the point of view of any other white supremacist. I mean, for God's sake, racist Scalia couldn't have said this mess no better. Here's your hero, Ruth Ginsburg, who the white media's putting on a pedestal. Here she is, talking like any other ignorant racist that you've ever heard. There's a few black police officers. Oh, well, we need to focus on training. And there are people in the public and the police working on the problem. No, there are people in the public trying to solve the problem. There are people in the police who are the problem. But then again, Ruth Ginsburg understands that her position in the society is dependent on organized violence, that there be a group who has carte blanche to exercise violence with impunity, and that's what it comes down to. She's not attempting to ask any questions about the police. Instead, it's a matter of all she had to say was Blue Lives Matters, and her white-splaining would have been complete. That's the only thing she was missing. She can get the hell out of here with that crap of the old things are better than they were before. Man, they've been running that game, folks, for 500 years, family. Things were better than they were before. Well, 20 years ago, there was no black president. Things were better now. And what did they say in 2000? Well, things are better than they were in the 1980s when they were firebombing MOVE, and better than they were in the LA riots. What did they say in the early 90s and the 80s? Well, things are better than they were in the 70s and 60s, having fire hoses turned on you. What did they say in the 60s? Things are better than they were in the 40s and 30s when they were hanging folks. What did they say in the 40s and 30s? Things are better than they were in the 19-teens and the turn of the century when they were burning down all those black townships after the end of Reconstruction. And what did they say at the turn of the 20th century? Things are better now than they were during slavery. What did they say during slavery? You're better off now in slavery than you were in Africa. You see, that's white supremacy's little rhetorical con game. Things are always better now than they were before. That's the game. Things are always better now. The only thing that's changed is the date on the calendar. The racial wealth gap hasn't changed. Black folks are being killed with as much impunity as we ever have. The only difference is that you have the ubiquity of handheld cameras and the internet, which means Katie Couric doesn't have the ability to play gatekeeper. The white media can't play gatekeeper for these murders anymore. And now you have the ability where you don't have to depend on some racist police officer to have accidentally turned on his camera, or for some store to have a surveillance camera or some sort of anti-theft camera nearby to capture it. Now the citizens have the power in their hands to do so, and they can disseminate it on their own. That's what the change is. This stuff's always been going on, but the difference is now you don't have to worry about, well, was there incidentally a camera nearby? Everybody's got one. And the white media no longer has the ability to gatekeep. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg is acting like things have changed, because this is how these white supremacists, this is the line of reasoning that they use amongst themselves. And they've been spouting their bull crap for so long, they've actually bought into their own pack of lies. But of course, she wasn't done yet. Katie Couric asks her, well, how do you feel about Colin Kaepernick? What she's really saying is, how do you feel about all these black protests that are calling out the thugs with badges? And here was Ruth Ginsburg's reply. And you'll notice that the language that she uses, she never uses this regarding the police, never uses it regarding any sort of white supremacist, but talking about black folks who are protesting police violence, here's what she has to say.
Justice Ginsburg, how do you feel about San Francisco 49ers player Colin Kaepernick and other NFL players who have basically refused to stand for the national anthem?
What do I think? I think it's really dumb of them. Would I arrest them for doing it? No. I think it's dumb and disrespectful. I would have the same answer if you asked me about flag burning. I said, I think it's a terrible thing to do, but I wouldn't lock a person up for doing it. I would point out how ridiculous it seems to me to do such an act. But it's dangerous to arrest people for conduct that is not doesn't jeopardize the health or well-being of other people. It's a symbol they're engaged in.
But when it comes to these football players, you may find their actions offensive.
Yes.
But what you're saying is it's within their rights to exercise. those actions?
If they want to be stupid, there's no law that should be preventive. If they want to be arrogant, there's no law that prevents them from that. What I would do is strongly take issue with the point of view that they are expressing when they do that.
You hear what this shriveled old racist piece of trash said?
I think it's really dumb of them. I think it's dumb and disrespectful.
Well, what about the black folks who are being murdered? Are the police dumb for that? Barack Obama said they were called the cops' actions, the one who arrested his pal, Henry Skip the Truth Gates. Barack Obama said that the cops' actions were stupid. You didn't have anybody on the right saying that there was anything okay with that. They were not silent, they were outraged. Some folks on the left were too. But these same people, they were silent about this.
I take issue with their point of view.
They're talking about black people being murdered in cold blood, caught on video. That's not a point of view, that's just a statement of the facts. It's the police presenting a point of view, usually a pack of lies, as we saw with the false police report about Tamir Rice, the false police report about Laquan McDonald, the false police report about Jacob Blake. Every time they kill a black person, that police report has more fiction than a library. But apparently when it comes to the police, she's not throwing insults at them. She has no condemnation for them. She's not excoriating and demonizing them. She's not saying that they're stupid. The police don't have a point of view. They just apparently state the facts. Meanwhile, you got these black people calling out the murders taking place right in front of you. Well, I take issue with their point of view. Oh, you think black people are being murdered with impunity? Well, that's just your opinion. That's just your point of view. This is who the white media is telling you should be praising. This is a First Amendment issue. Nobody should have anything to object to here. You can't object to what someone doesn't say. But that's exactly what Ruth Ginsburg does, and you saw that the dominant society circled the wagons for her. They closed ranks to protect her. White media made it a point, well, this is not going to be a blemish on her record. We're not going to make an issue of this. Yeah, well, the black media will.
I think it's dumb and disrespectful.
She doesn't talk about the police like that. She doesn't say the police are dumb. You guys kill unarmed people in the streets. You killed children. That's dumb. You guys smile for the cameras after you murder someone. That's disrespectful. She doesn't say that.
I would point out how ridiculous it seems to me.
And I would point out how asinine her moronic words seem to me. And when Katie Couric said,
I understand that you feel that it's offensive to you.
And she goes, yes. See, again, do you notice how the similarity between Ruth Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia? Both of them sound like peas in a pod, don't they? Their words are interchangeable. Yeah, I think we're beginning to understand how these two got along so well for so long. Is because they were on the same wavelength. They had a shared hatred of black people. As soon as you bring up black people, Antonin Scalia couldn't contain himself.
You know, there seems to be this attitude, this phenomenon of racial entitlement.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, dumb. I think it's dumb and disrespectful. If they want to be stupid, there's no law that prevents it. If they want to be arrogant, there's no law that prevents that. They're protesting murders taking place in the streets. Numerous members of the NFL have been targets of white supremacist police violence. And Ruth Ginsburg says that they're being dumb, disrespectful, ridiculous, stupid, arrogant. Yeah, there's a whole lot of racial entitlement going on, but it ain't the black folks who are practicing it. This is your liberal hero that these white millennials were going gaga about. See, as far as they're concerned, Ruth Ginsburg's anti-black racism isn't an issue. It might be an issue for black folks, but we're not worried about them. These are your white millennials. Where's your LGBT representation to say, hold on? It says a lot when you have the first openly homosexual Supreme Court justice who is running around arguing and being an apologist for white supremacist violence under color of law and attacking black people who are quietly, respectfully showing protest against it, not even saying anything, calling them names, calling them stupid, calling them dumb, calling them arrogant. Does this sound like a jurist, or does this sound more like a racist old biddy on the Jersey Turnpike? This is your ballyhooed, much beloved Ruth Ginsburg. Now you're starting to see why it is that the white powers that be love this woman so much. Now you're seeing what it is about her that they were so enamored with. She never talks about the police like this. Oh, when it came time to talk about the police, it was all about, they protect us and children. And she's sitting here talking as if every word that she said, as if she was just a sock puppet for them, because she is. She understands that as part of the government, it is her job to protect the enforcement arm of white supremacy. She understands that. As far as she's concerned, she doesn't give a damn what they do, especially against black people. That's their job. She recognizes, yep, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're using racist violence in order to keep these niggers in line. Hopefully this keeps the niggers intimidated. And if they decide that they're going to protest against that, well, I want them to know they're going to have an enemy on the Supreme Court. Now you see why it is that the Supreme Court seems to never have a problem extending and reinforcing police unconstitutional powers, giving the police immunity from law. Now you're starting to understand the mentality of the individuals in the Supreme Court. Why it is that for some damn reason, they never ever rule against the police. They never seem able to do that. Because they see themselves as being cops in the courtroom. And they understand exactly the role that the police play in the society. They understand the true function of the police, and they are there to support and to protect it. They are there to make sure that it's declared to everyone, if the police do it, especially if they do it against a black person, it cannot be illegal. If the police do it, well, unless the police officer's black. If the police officer's black, then maybe. It's a coin toss, 50-50. And if it's a black cop who does something against a white person, oh, now there's a violation of law. She understands exactly what the hell she's saying. This is what the white media and white millennials and white pundits like to laud as being such a liberal woman, don't you see? Who is a feckless, spineless apologist for thugs with badges, and who made it a point to excoriate and attack law-abiding, decent men who are protesting murders taking place in the streets. Ayanna Jones was a child, and the police murdered her. Tamir Rice was a child, and the police murdered him. Charlene Lyles was pregnant with a baby, and the police murdered her. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg, far as she's concerned, that doesn't matter. Sounding just like Tommy Lauren when Trevor Noah had her on his show, and he said, well, how should they protest then? If you don't like Kaepernick's protest, how should they? And in the end, he wouldn't let her out of having to answer that question. In the end, she said, well, I don't think they should be doing it at all. Sounds just like Ruth Ginsburg, doesn't it? She doesn't say what the right way would be to protest. It's just, you shouldn't be doing it at all. Yeah, here's your liberal icon on the bench. This is your icon, and this is what made her an icon to white power. There's a lot that can be said about Ruth Ginsburg, none of it good. If you were to ask what significant judicial ruling she handed down, I couldn't tell you. Obviously, she didn't get nominated to the bench because of her legal prowess and acumen. Because of her judicial abilities, she got put there because she would be a good cog in the machine of white supremacy. Maintain white supremacy at all costs. That is the totality of the law. So now that this skank bag has kicked the bucket, now she's pushing up daisies, now that she's officially become worm food, what happens now? Well, as I told you guys, and you don't have to be a genius to see this one, the Republicans have been telegraphing this one for the longest time. As soon as they heard that she had cancer, and they also looked at the actuarial tables, this woman was shriveling up like a prune. It was pretty obvious she'd be the next one to get fitted for a coffin. And they were already salivating and going, soon as she kicks the bucket, Won't be long now. We're going to put somebody else in there to replace. It's going to be a right-wing lunatic, and we're going to make sure it's somebody in their 20s. You see that list that Trump has? These are people who basically just got their law degrees yesterday. I mean, they're being blatant about it. The nominees that Trump is looking at, they're not there because they have any experience. Most of them barely got made out of law school. Most of them are barely out of law school. Most of them probably just got their first job working as a gopher in some hole-in-the-wall law firm somewhere. But that's who Trump wants, because this is basically, they're putting aside all pretense that being on the Supreme Court has anything to do with your ability to interpret the law. You are there to be a political rubber stamp. They're putting aside all pretense. But then again, when you look at the behavior of Antonin Scalia and Ruth Ginsburg, well, the cat was out of the bag on that one a long time ago, now wasn't it? The Democrats are concerned right now, at least their supporters are. And they're worried because Trump's about to have a supermajority on the Supreme Court. And more importantly than that, because of the fact that the Republicans have had pretty much a good run for the most part, as far as being able to put people on the bench, well, that basically means that for another 25 years, a generation at least, you're going to be dealing with these political ideologues. It's going to be a while before Clarence Thomas and John Roberts and Alito, before these goofballs die or otherwise retire or get hit by a bus or whatever. So in the meanwhile, you're going to be dealing with these political ideologues trying to frustrate whatever efforts the political left is trying to do. Now, what's the solution for this? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to make sure that you have two things. One, you're going to need control of the Senate, because that's who decides, that's who confirms the Supreme Court picks, and you need the White House. You're going to have both. Now, the easiest way to get it would be to accede to the righteous demands of the black grassroots. That would make it where all of this needless and largely useless campaigning that Joe Biden's doing wouldn't even need to do all that. But that's the problem, though. The problem is, once you've bent the knee to black people's demands, well, that's also going to mean that court is going to have to undergo some changes, too. It cannot be a rubber stamp committee for white power and white privilege and for the thugs with badges. And that's exactly what it is that both political parties are trying to avoid. They like the status quo. One of them just pretends to have an issue with it. But when Joe Biden was pressed on, hey, what about that defund the police thing? I'm not in favor of that. We should give the police more money. Well, hell, Donald Trump, you sound just like him. And before you go letting any of these black sock puppet accounts, or more likely white leftists pretending to be black people, or some black folks who just don't know any better and just too stupid to care, before you allow any of these goofballs to come along and try to tell you that there would be some difference depending on if Joe Biden's the one who makes a Supreme Court pick, let me tell you something. Bill Clinton was the one who chose Ruth Ginsburg. She was a Clinton appointee. You know, Mr. First Black President, according to Toni Morrison. That's who chose Ruth Ginsburg, a Democrat did. And how much good did that heifer do us? Oh, she understood the struggles of black people, and she certainly was not some anti-black racist. And considering Joe Biden's track record, I'm sure that he would find somebody who would be every bit as supportive and understanding of the law as Ruth Ginsburg, right? Surely he wouldn't be finding somebody who would be a fork-tongued devil, who would be speaking all liberal about issues that are important to them, mostly regarding gay marriage and abortion, which are the two things that they happen to be the most hot and bothered about. But when it comes to black people, all of a sudden they sound no different than any other dyed-in-the-wool right-wing nut racist. So you got to stop letting people tell you that there would be some sort of difference. There would not be a difference at all. The Democrat Supreme Court nominees have been every bit as racist as the Republicans. Now, some of them, like Sotomayor and Kagan, may not have been so strident about it, but they damn sure ain't been giving it the old college try when it comes to making sure that black people get ours. So don't be giving me any garbage about how there will be a difference if a Democrat chooses the next Supreme Court justice. The only way that I would believe that there would be a difference is if the Democrats come to me, bend the knee, and they say, we understand exactly what your interests are, and whomever we select for the Supreme Court is going to be somebody who understands that. No more judicial activism by some right-wing nut racist or someone who leans right when it comes to black people's power and interests like Ruth Ginsburg. Not somebody who's so worried about making sure that LGBTs get to sleep at night knowing that there will be why you can't even say the word. You can't even say that you question gay marriage, because that's what this is really about. This is basically one judicial victory lap after the next. That's the only thing going on with LGBT rights in the courts. They've already gotten everything that they want. It's just a matter of this is just basically psychological masturbation, one victory lap after the next. That's what's going on. Just reassuring them, don't worry, guys. There's not going to be any reversals or retractions of all of these privileges and rights that you've been handed. We're going to be doing that to the niggers. Don't worry about it. Your position's okay. So while one constituency who doesn't have the power to get anybody in office is being reassured that their petty interests are going to be maintained, the very real concerns, the monumental concerns of black folks who actually can get you in office are being completely and thoroughly ignored. Not just ignored, but being spat upon. Showed naked contempt. So no, as far as I'm concerned, the Supreme Court, I don't give a damn who gets on the Supreme Court because of the fact that nobody's come to me and made it clear that if I vote a certain way, my interests are going to be stood up for and represented in the highest court in the land. I need to be assured that there's not going to be another Ruth Ginsburg put on the court. I need to be assured of that. And I have not received any assurance. Nobody has come to me and made it very clear. We're bending the knee, and the Republicans have the Federalist Society who does the vetting of their Supreme Court nominees. Well, who's going to be doing the vetting to make sure that black people have Supreme Court nominees that are aligned with what it is that we need? As opposed to having a bunch of racists who either are hateful and spiteful and vicious when it comes to attacking our rights, or in the case of Ruth Ginsburg, happen to be maliciously indifferent to our rights at best. The best thing you could say about her is that she was maliciously indifferent. And at worst, she was no different than that racist Antonin Scalia. You heard it from her own shriveled, wrinkled, prune-faced mouth. Ruth Ginsburg is the one who's dumb. She was dumb. She was disrespectful. She's ridiculous. She's a sock puppet for white supremacy, so that pretty much goes with the job. And while I would not say necessarily that there should be a law to punish this kind of stupidity, there should certainly be de facto statutes in place to make it where we can punish them for attacking our interests. When you happen to be a minority in a society, what that means is you can be very easily attacked and you become almost a perpetual target unless it is strictly understood you are off limits. And if this arrogant old heifer wants to be arrogant, she can be arrogant, but she should not be a Supreme Court justice. I got nothing good to say about Ruth Ginsburg, and you shouldn't either. I'm telling you about the real Ruth Ginsburg. I'm telling you what she really was, and don't you forget it, and do not forget who put her on the bench. If you're going to stop the next Ruth Ginsburg from getting there, you need to be realistic about the fact that the people who put her there in the first place, well, they didn't come to you to get any input as to who should be on the bench. So what's the difference between her and anyone that Trump puts on there? Is Trump going to put an anti-black racist on there? Gee, maybe it'll be somebody who says that black people who protest police violence against black folks are dumb. Maybe that's who Trump will put it. Maybe that's who Trump will nominate. Somebody who will say that protesting police violence is dumb and disrespectful, and will call you stupid and say that you're arrogant. Maybe that's who Trump will pick. I keep trying to tell black folks to understand that until you have been consulted on these things, until you've looked and seen that your interests are being represented, you can't just cast a ballot and hope, because the truth of the matter is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have already told you. They've already told you in clear terms, unequivocal terms. They're not representing your interest. So yeah, the court might be in danger for white feminists, and the LGBTs might get a little bit of heartburn here and there. And the illegal aliens, they probably won't like some of the rulings that get handed down, but you know what? Some of that pain gets spread around, and that's fine. And if they don't like it, well, they got no one to blame but Jim Crow Joe and Kamala Harris. Black people have already been spelling out, we're through spelling out what our demands are. They know exactly what they are. There's nothing left for them to do now but to comply or go into the political wilderness. All of this, we're going to find some way to circumvent the black vote. Yeah, so you can put another Ruth Ginsburg on the bench. Got to make sure that all of those newly minted Biden Republicans that they're trying to attract want to make sure that they understand whoever we get is going to be somebody who agrees with Antonin Scalia. Oh, no, you guys, see, this is why Rahm Emanuel was talking about it's important to find these white centrists who happen to be in favor of gay marriage. You know, they're not opposed to gay marriage. They're not opposed to illegal immigration. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, undocumented migration. In other words, anything except for black people's interests. He didn't say a word about black people's interests because that's understood. We're not mentioning black people's interests because black people's interests don't matter. And everybody picks up on that language. They understand the fact that he didn't mention black people, that was the message. It's going to be about everybody except for black people. Surely you white centrists can get around. You white moderates can get behind that, right? So we'll put another Ruth Ginsburg on the bench or someone like her. And you don't have, we know you're not concerned about gay marriage or reinforcing any sort of LGBT super citizen privileges in the society, because the only thing you're concerned about is black people and making sure that they get kept in their place. So don't worry, nothing that actually threatens your white supremacist interests are going to actually be enacted. And after this, you guys will basically give a wink and a nod to it, right? One hand washes the other, right? Well, it's time for both of those hands to get hit and hard. I'm not going to let anyone come to me and say, oh, it's a 4-alarm fire. We happen to be on code red. It's DEFCON 1 because Ruth Ginsburg has kicked the bucket. And God only knows who Trump is going to pick. Doesn't matter. Whoever he picks is not going to be interested in representing black people's interests, and neither is whomever Jim Crow Joe Biden picks. Biden has made it very clear. He has made it very clear. He's not coming to black people to ask anything. The one thing that he actually had to respond to, defunding the police, he made it clear, no, I'm on the side of the police. It would be one thing if he said, well, I'm not in favor of defunding the police and left it at that. But instead, he tripled down on it. He said, I'm not in favor of defunding the police. In fact, I would give the police $300 million. Yeah, not only is he simply going to be, he wouldn't just merely abstain from defunding the police. It's a matter of, I'm taking the cop's side. I want to make sure that the thugs with badges are encouraged. I want to make sure that if anyone defunds them, well, the federal government's going to take up the slack then. We'll go ahead and subsidize you. Again, where the hell are these differences at between the right and the left? Black folks spend a lot of time daydreaming, and what happens is because of the fact that we get systematically ignored by both political parties, we start taking on these daydreams and delusions. And if they so much as give us the time of day, we immediately imagine to ourselves, oh, they must be in favor of protecting black people from police violence and making sure that black people get their economic due and our tangibles. And we start imagining all of that stuff simply because we have been so starved for what is supposed to be our interest being maintained and promoted by the very politicians who we've been voting for. So when they actually do give us the time of day, here we are, we get carried away with ourselves and imagine all sorts of stuff that they didn't actually say and didn't actually do. And even when they tell you to your face, I'm going to make sure the cops get $300 million so they can have more money to abuse and kill you niggers with. And even when they tell you that, you got black folks going, well, they probably don't mean me. You know, Stephon Clark and his dumb brother, they were talking that stupid nonsense. Stephon Clark used to be talking that Blue Lives Matter garbage until the cops blew him away. And by the way, more of those victims of white supremacist police violence than we are willing to admit, those clowns basically were leaning in that direction. They dipped their toes into the middle of Lake Stupid. They said some garbage supportive of the thugs with badges, and the cops blew them away because apparently they thought, oh, well, those black folks who got killed, those are other black people. Surely they wouldn't do that to me. And they kept saying that and thinking that until the cops did it to them too. So you got a lot of black folks out there who are trying to assure themselves that, well, when Joe Biden gives all this money to the police and the police are emboldened and encouraged to kill black people because now they know that the federal government's going to subsidize them. So this is going to be their counter lever to local power. When Tip O'Neill said that all politics is local, yeah, but the problem is since Congress has the power of the purse, all economics is not local. Some of it is national. And that being the case, if at the local level the citizens make it clear we're going to declaw and defang the white supremacists who have been murdering black people in the streets, well, Joe Biden's made it very clear we're going to override whatever local punishments the citizens put in place on you at the local level. We're going to override that. If the citizens are going to starve the beast for money, well, the federal government's going to do a workaround and we're going to subvert the will of the people. That's what this is about. So you see judicial activism and you see political legislative activism. All of it meant to prop up and promote white supremacy, to try to give it a lease on life for a little bit longer. And the reason that they have to resort to these measures where they're violating their own laws, because this is not a nation of laws, it's a nation of men, specifically white men. And the reason that they do that is they have to put all pretense aside is because they know their position is weak. And they know that it's getting weaker. And they also understand that the political threat that is being posed by the black grassroots right now, they don't have an answer for it. So you see that there's this convergence between the white right and the white left. Whatever rhetorical differences they might have claimed to have, they're starting to put that mess aside and say, well, we got to band together against this common enemy. So don't let anybody tell you that Ruth Ginsburg belongs on a pedestal. And don't let anybody tell you she was some friend to black people. She was not. And that you ought to be crying tears and, oh, you just lost one of the best things that ever happened to you in the judiciary. No, this woman was every bit as much a racist as her best buddy, Antonin Scalia. We need to be focused on what's in our interest, aggregating our power and making sure to solidify and re-solidify our bonds of communication and interaction with one another. That's what we're supposed to be doing. As far as the elections goes, well, these white liberals here who are wondering what the hell they're going to do, they already knew what needed to be done. They knew what needed to be done 4 years ago. If Hillary Clinton had bent the knee and done what she was supposed to, they wouldn't be in this position right now. But because of the fact that she would not, and the Democrats as a party would not, look at where they're at right now. Oh, they may have a numerical plurality of the population on their side, but the problem is they're getting jammed up 5 ways from Sunday. And the right arm of white supremacy is going to have a good time smacking up and slapping around the left arm for a bit. But you know what? This is good. Let all those white millennials who were lauding and praising notorious RBG, let them go ahead and see that black folks get to have a say in this too. Oh, they thought that it was so great that they were heaping praise on her. She was their buddy because she gave some asinine little statement. Yeah, well, the only statement I care about is the one that she gave regarding the rights of black people being trampled on, starting with our right to live. That's the only stance that she took. That's the only rant that she made. Oh, she speaks her mind. Do you have a bunch of these white supremacist scumbags who happen to be in the so-called alternative white media praising her? Like, for instance, at the Daily Beast, you had this Lizzie Crocker woman, and she's got the right name, Croc indeed. She had her little headline, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Kaepernick criticism doesn't make her less liberal. She's faced criticism for calling Kaepernick's refusal to stand for the national anthem dumb and disrespectful. We should celebrate her independent-minded liberalism. Up here praising this heifer, independent-minded liberalism. She speaks her mind, and we shouldn't be attacking her for that. This is supposed to be a left-of-center website saying this garbage. That she should be, that basically we need to put her on a pedestal. Justice Ginsburg's opinion may stray from the progressive mainstream in this particular case, but perhaps that's because she's a thinking person with a complex set of liberal values. This is what a white supremacist left-of-center website says. Well, maybe you don't like her opinion, but that's because she's a thinking person. So if you disagree with that, that's because you're not a thinking person. She has a complex set of liberal values. Actually, it doesn't sound like she has many liberal values at all. Sounds like she's liberal when it comes to things that concern her. As a white woman, she's concerned about lesbianism because she's LGBT. She's concerned about abortion because that's the perennial obsession with them. But that's where her liberal values stop. Ain't nothing complex about it. She is a simple white supremacist bigot. Nothing complex about that at all. But this is what a white left-of-center website says about her. To demonize her unpopular opinion on Colin Kaepernick is to contradict the very values like tolerance that progressive liberals claim to support. Now notice that she doesn't say that Ruth Ginsburg contradicts the value of tolerance. Notice she's very careful not to say that. She doesn't say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg violated the liberal value of tolerance. Instead, it's a matter of if you criticize her, nobody's demonizing her. She's just being accurately called out on the racist garbage that she said. That doesn't contradict tolerance. Nobody's saying she should be burned at the stake. And to use her words, because that's what she likes to say, I don't think that there should be a law that prevents it. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg wants to be stupid, there's no law that prevents it. If she wants to be arrogant, there's no law that prevents that. I don't think she should be arrested or locked up for it. Ain't that what she said? So nobody's saying that this doesn't violate any tenets or any values of tolerance. Nobody's saying that she should be locked up. But you see, just like the white right, as soon as you go ahead and call out some white person who is attacking black people and undermining black people's interests and who is attempting to be an apologist for anti-black violence, all of a sudden, well, you shouldn't say that. You're stomping all over her rights. What about tolerance? Which they never say when it comes to black people. And by the way, just on a side note, this Lizzie Crocker woman, I remember I told you about her before, that she wrote an article that was being an apologist for David Bowie and other white pedophiles. But when it came to Bill Cosby, she had nothing but condemnation. So this is supposed to be what counts as your white liberal media. It's supposed to be your white alternative liberal media. This Lizzie Crocker woman, she's done this crap before. It seems every time that you attack black people, here she comes to defend it and say it's all right. Learn to recognize who's on your side and who's not. Learn to recognize when you got a dog in the fight and when you don't. Don't let somebody tell you that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was something that she was not. Or that, well, she's the lesser of two evils. Do you see any good in what the hell this woman did where black people are concerned? Letting all these white supremacists on the left tell you that somehow if you got to make sure that you represent their interest. No, I would only help their interest to the exact same extent that they help mine. Because in my world, we actually do value justice. That's what black empowerment is. That is justice. We're all about tearing down white supremacy and replacing it with justice. And in my world, no court and no judge is higher than that.